Take a look at the price of Bitcoin now at record levels. It topped 111,000 for a brief moment. Right now, the cryptocurrency trading about 110,716. Joining us right now, Anthony Scaramucci, founder and managing partner of SkyBridge Capital. Explain the move, Anthony, because we've now diverged again from all sorts of things. It seems to go along with something, and then it seems to not go along with things.
So if I could really explain the move, Andrew, I would stop working. So I can't explain the move. What I can say, though, is a bipartisan commitment to stablecoin legislation, the Genius Act, and of course you have the Stable Act coming up. I know Joe Kernan's got to love the fact that these two acts are called Stable Genius. Am I right? So
yeah,
you've got
exactly.
the two, right? So you've got the stable.
The main coin is Covfefe, isn't it?
Yeah. So you've got Joe. I know you love stable and genius when those words are put together, but these are two.
The shoe fits.
Listen, it's a bipartisan act, and I think it's putting to bed the idea that we're going to have a partisan issue around regulation in Bitcoin. And by the way, this is really along the David Sachs theory, where we've got to make Bitcoin bipartisan. If we're really going to create a crypto reserve for the United States, and you guys know this, we have states now that have passed crypto reserves. Countries, sovereign wealth funds are buying it. And so this sort of paves the way for a bipartisan commitment to Bitcoin, but it also opens up pathways for foundations, endowments, institutional investors. And so, Andrew, I think this move is Bitcoin, when you're looking at it as a capital allocator, it's sort of the Dow of crypto. And so therefore, people are taking a toehold position. It's thinly volumed in terms of the amount of supply that's out there. And that's what's pushing the price up so aggressively.
In terms of what's going on with the president, and I know you have particular views about the president, but I imagine there's got to be some views that are actually, you've had a criticism of him, but some positive views. He's having this meeting or dinner with all of the crypto world. What are we supposed to think about that?
Oh, and I've had this conversation with Joe. There were some things he was doing in the tariffs I didn't like. He paused the tariffs. I came on the air and praised that. I'm actually just going to be anti-Trump. He's done a lot of good things on the crypto piece. He's done some good things for the banks. He set up a course for some deregulation that I think is positive for growth. But alongside of that, unfortunately, you're picking up some of the meme activity, or you're picking up the notion that the president's actually going to be out there measuring people's wallets in his own meme coin to provide him access. And so, listen, it's probably inside the spirit of the law, Andrew, and the letter of the law, if you will, but it doesn't feel right to a lot of people. And I just think it slows down. It gums up the works for crypto, and it makes people think of the unseemly side of the blockchain and crypto as opposed to the positive. So I'm not in love with the dinner. I'm sure there are people on the president's team that are not in love with the dinner. Probably not going to be as candid as I would be about the dinner. But that's the president. And so what are you going to do? When you're at the Trump buffet, Andrew, you got to eat everything. You got to eat the meme coin alongside the positive stuff that he's doing too. There's no a la carte menu when you're dining with Donald Trump, particularly on these types of things.
Anthony, the pomp was on yesterday. He was back to fiat and, the rush to the bottom and devaluation, everybody, printing. He was saying that's still going to be, in the end, the 21 million Bitcoin that are available, that's still going to be the overriding impetus for Bitcoin to continue to go higher. I don't know. Yeah,
listen, well, I heard the interview, because obviously, I watch you guys. I also got the shout out on my birthday, Joe. I saw that, you and I. A lot of weird things happen on January 6th, Joe, including you and me. But
you're talking about Eric Trump being born. I know what you're saying.
And by the way, Joe, you'll be impressed with this. I invited Eric to my Wyoming Blockchain Association symposium, which is coincident to the Federal Reserve central banking meetings out there. Eric accepted the invitation. Yeah. So, listen,
I like Eric.
You gotta try to, live in the middle somewhere. But the point that Pomp was making, I would say a little differently. I think people feel that there's been some drunk driving by the central banking community more broadly, and again, over 50 years. And so what Pomp is trying to say to you guys is that if Bitcoin explodes and becomes an asset as a store of value or potential global currency, if you will, it sort of takes the drunk driving takes the keys away from the central bankers. And so this spending bill, which is massive, and it doesn't stop the freight train of U.S. spending and the growth of the deficit relative to U.S. GDP. So in the background of everything I said earlier about crypto and the regulation, the spending bill also makes people concerned to say, geez, I may want to own assets away from the U.S. dollar. This is a good competitive asset now.
Anthony, one last thing, and I know I think you're, I don't know if you're a Bitcoin maximalist, but you're focused on Bitcoin. I'm curious where you land on stablecoins, because it feels like that is the next sort of place this all moves.
Well, so I'm a big fan of stablecoins. I think that you'll lower the cost of transactions globally, and you'll help the unbanked, Andrew, with the advent and the proliferation of stablecoins. I also think it helps dollar supremacy, because if you look at these stablecoin companies, whether it's Circle or Tether, or you pick other stablecoin companies that are growing, in their reserves, they own a lot of U.S. dollar-denominated assets, specifically U.S. Treasury. I think Tether, I think it was reported that they own more treasuries than Germany or Japan in terms of the inventory of treasuries on their balance sheet. So to me, the legislation is going to allow us to increase that. I think that's better for the dollar, but I also think at some point, you'll come to the Hunt and Fish Club, you'll pay with a stable coin, and you'll avoid the 3.5% credit card fee. And I think that's sorely overdue. I mean, there's approximately $7 trillion of money that's spent globally on verification of transactions, which includes credit card fees, wiring fees, all these different things that we're using. And if you can cut that down using stablecoins, using the blockchain, I think we should be doing that. And I will applaud the administration for wanting to advance that. The last administration, they were making specious arguments about why we shouldn't advance that. And so I do give the administration credit for wanting to make this technology stick here in the United States to enable the United States to maintain its mantle of financial services leadership.
And then finally, Anthony, if you were going to play the stablecoin, what's the investment there?
Well, listen, I will fully disclose, I own a piece of Circle. I'm a big fan of Jeremy and his business. I'm a big fan of that management team. We had his colleague Dante at our Bermuda conference 2 weeks ago. These guys do a brilliant job, and they're regulatorily tight. I think Tether will also enter the United States at some point, and I think those are the two formidable ones. But I do believe that Coinbase is also a way to play this, because they have a great relationship with Circle, right, and they're aggregating a lot of money there. And Coinbase just going into the S&P 500 is great value in our minds. We own a lot of that in our mutual fund, CRPT.